What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Myself and my guy Ken Gibbs are back again for another loaded, I would say, episode of Locked On Wolfpack. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours, and we got to break it all down. So, Ken, you ready to go?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much so ready to talk about a lot that's going on today. We got some big announcements. We got some big announcements on the way. Let's talk about it.
Buckle up, folks, because Kevin Keatts is in the kitchen, and we're going to talk about what he's got cooking on today's episode of Locked On Wolfpack.
You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in, everybody. We got another action-packed show here. I can't believe how much has happened since the last time we spoke just last night, Kenton. But I mean, hey, this is the nature of the beast. This is the transfer portal. This is about as exciting as it can get for an NC State fan talking about the transfer portal. You know, just yesterday we discussed the arrival of DJ Horn, a homecoming for the Raleigh kid, and you know, how well we think he's going to fit into the Keatts system here. Less than 24 hours, boom, we got another one. In comes Ben Middlebrooks, power forward / center from Clemson. As you see here, we just put the transfer announcement for those of you watching us here on YouTube. It's a guy that played a little bit sparingly at Clemson, but I think at times you saw, we saw very well as Clemson kind of stuck it to us 3 times, but when he's on the floor, he makes the most out of his time out there. What are your thoughts on Ben Middlebrooks?
He works in a way that doesn't always show up on the stat sheets, but he brings a toughness and an edge to your team. If you saw, whenever he was on the court for Clemson, he bought a presence underneath that's like, you have to fight him to box out and get a rebound. You're not just going to, I'm just going to kind of gently throw my arm out there. No. You need to be arm and hip on Mr. Middlebrooks, or he's going to come down with the ball. And from what I hear, his shooting touch was underutilized at Clemson. So I'll be on the watch for it. I'll see, you know what I mean? Because I'm a big believer in after a certain amount of time, you just are who you are. But like you said, he played sparingly, so maybe he didn't have enough time to get himself in that confidence and rhythm of his shot.
Yeah, the most resounding thoughts I saw surrounding Middlebrooks that I've just seen so far floating around on Twitter is that once you get the ball to him inside, he's strong with it. He's got apparently big, strong hands, so you don't have to worry about him fumbling the ball going up to the rim. He's a good finisher at the rim. He's a strong rebounder. Prototypically, when you get a new recruit, you're going to jump on to ESPN and you're going to look at his stat line. Absolutely. And like we just mentioned, you're not going to find a whole lot there, as I think Clemson probably underutilized what they could have gotten out of Middlebrooks. And that's what we're going to hope to exploit moving forward. You know, a couple thoughts I was sharing on Twitter with some people coming back and forth about it is I would have to think that Keatts is operating this recruiting cycle under the impression that we might not have Dusan Mahorcic back. I've since heard a couple thoughts to maybe flip back around and realize we may still have him. We'll get more to that in just a second. But this feels like, it's kind of funny to say an upgrade over Jack Clark, because Jack Clark has subsequently decided that he is going to go to Clemson. He's going to take his talents over to Clemson out of the transfer portal. So we've kind of completed a 1-to-1 trade here with the Tigers, but I'm excited with what Middlebrooks can bring to the Wolfpack. I think he'll bring another big interior presence, something we've needed more of, I think, the past couple of years. You can't exactly rely on just DJ Burns, even as effective as he is, but I think Middlebrooks will bring a lot on the defensive end. And so that's what I'm probably most excited to see out of him. And it's going to be kind of interesting also to see how he might play with an Isaiah Miranda or maybe DJ Burns, maybe all 3 of them on the floor at the same time. It seems like these new pieces, they're they're very flexible in the role they can play, and I think that will really play to Keatts' advantage in his game schemes, I think.
Unless you got two shooters, unlike the world has ever seen, I'm not sure that you want to have Middlebrooks, Miranda, and Burns on the court at the same time. But
I've heard Middlebrooks can shoot a little bit.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I heard, that he was under you, and that's where I was just about to go. But I want to talk about something for a second. Ain't it so interesting that Mr. Middlebrooks wanted to play, as his former teammate Brevin Galloway called it, AAU ball? Ain't it so interesting?
Very funny, I think, too. Yeah, like a couple weeks ago, we heard these kind of snide remarks coming out of Clemson. They think we play a very undisciplined type of basketball, and we just kind of roll our five guys out there and say, go play. And then to get one of their players, maybe Ben thinks otherwise of us. Maybe he saw something that perhaps Mr. Galloway did not in the 3 times that we played them this year. But I'm excited about Ben. I think he can bring a lot to the table for us.
And speaking of rolling out your 5 guys, I want to make an analogy here real quick. I want you to think about something, okay? In terms of who's had more items on their menu in all of our lives, who would you say has a quote unquote deeper bag? McDonald's or Five Guys?
McDonald's for sure.
Which food is better? Which one would you say is better though? Which one would you rather eat?
Quality of food? Like,
which would you rather eat? Which one, if somebody was like, hey, I've got $100 gift card to both, which one would you rather go with?
In terms of volume,
the fact that you had to think about this scares me. It's Five Guys. That's your answer there by a landslide.
With $100 at Five Guys, you're getting what? 2 burgers?
I mean, yes, you're only getting a very limited amount of things. You know what? That is a fair point. It is a recession. All right, fine. 10 free trips. But either way, the reality is simple, right? Coach Keatts' offense may not do, again, we've talked about this before in the terms of set plays, and even defensively. The pack may not be very complicated with 1,000 different defensive schemes and rotations and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if they've done what they do well enough to where we come out on top, we're in the tournament, we're having we're having winning records in conference and all that. I mean, what do you need to have a million different things for? What do you need to have your team identity be something that it's not? Play to your strengths, play to your players. And I'll tell you what, honestly, and I know that this may sound terrible, but I'm going to say it. In having a guy like Terquavion Smith gone, right? This is not to disrespect Terquavion Smith. This is not to say he's a bad player. Terquavion Smith rightfully earned his green light at the beginning of last year. However, toward the end of the year, one of my biggest criticisms of Keatts became you need to tap that green light down because, like, there were times you can't have a must trade of struggles. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't do that in my book, and I'm still like, oh, everything's fine here. With that being said, if we're looking at a situation where he's just trotting them out and saying, hey, do your thing and we'll feed who's hot, that could be very good for this team, especially with a DJ Burns that we've seen when he gets hot. It's, I mean, like how the same, we're doing this for Keatts in the portal. You can do that with DJ Burns when he get to that block and he get over that right shoulder. When he get over that, yeah, it's right shoulder, left hand, yeah. So when he get over that right shoulder, that left hand, it's the same deal. So, we'll see what happens here. But again, I think that this team being assembled as they are, kind of having guys who are going to play big roles coming together in this way to where nobody has that infinite green light could be a good thing for this team.
Yeah, I mean, so definite progress here and kind of being able to visualize what this next team under Keatts is going to look like. In just a second, we're going to talk a little bit more about some potential more transfer progress we could have coming down the pipe, maybe even by the end of this week. We're going to have to wait and see. But first, a word from our sponsors at FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's right, $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You don't even have to win to get all that bonus money back in your account. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Again, just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Sorry, wrong button.
You're good. You're good. You're golden. You're golden.
All these buttons and slideshows, I get mixed up sometimes. But
so we got a little too fancy. See what I mean? See what I mean? We were like Five Guys for a while. We never got the wrong buttons. We added these slideshows. Next thing you know, we like McDonald's with the snack wrap. We just ran out of time. Didn't work out right. But proceed, Grace.
So, getting back into this buzz in what an action-packed day it was on Twitter, following around all these scoops and stories and whispers. Here comes another one, and it's one like I've already mentioned on this program. Very excited about the prospects of. Here we have MJ Rice, and as you can see, there's a crystal ball prediction on his player page as well. Kenton, you want to read to me what that says there at the bottom of the page?
Sure thing. For our listeners who are not on YouTube, it says transfer portal crystal ball to NC State 100%.
100% prediction to the NC State Wolfpack for MJ Rice. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, let us cook. Kevin is in the kitchen and you can hear it sizzling. MJ Rice, I'll talk about it on this show. I've talked about it on past shows. I've said it, I think just last episode. I think this kid can be a program-changing commit. We've said all the things about him. He was a former 5-star recruit, McDonald's All-American. He went to Kansas, didn't get the playing time that probably he wanted. He's from nearby in the Durham-Henderson area. He was just on campus this past weekend. We also had Middlebrooks and Horn, who are now both committed. MJ Rice sounds like Keatts is going to go 3 for 3 in visits this past weekend. Humongous potential here. And I am chomping at the bit until we get that next not meme, but next Tipton edit saying that we have landed MJ Rice. I hope it's today. I hope it's tomorrow. I hope it's as soon as possible because I need MJ to be part of the pack.
I'm going to say this. MJ Rice, when I look at his game, I see a lot of Darian Sebron in him. Maybe not the same type of length, but I see a lot of that ability to slash, the ability to control the ball, the ability to do a lot of things. And with that being said, when he's coming downhill, it's always going to be some nasty work on the defender. However, my question for him, if he is to join up here, is how committed will he be on the defensive end? Because that, to me, is where he shows the potential and the flashes to be special. But can he put that package together and be special on the defensive end?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. He's, again, in transition, golden. He's your guy. When you're talking about him driving downhill after a good pick, golden. That's your guy. You want him attacking the basket. Can you be the guy that, maybe I'm greedy. Maybe I want too much. You know what I mean? Maybe in the words of Prince, maybe I'm just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Maybe that's the thing I'm looking at here, but I want a lot of competitive defenders. I want guys who they're arguing in practice over who's going to get the number one guy. Hey, I got him this game. No, I got him. No, I want him. That's what I want to see out of this team. And if he can step into that role and kind of be that type of guy, again, I'm not saying that, he has to, or let me rephrase it. I'm not saying that he has to be in those arguments of like, I want the number one guard. No, I want the lead guard. No, I want the lead slasher. But if he can lock down and lock in defensively to become locked down, that'd be great to see.
Right. I think, his offensive side of the ball is kind of the more proven part of his game in both high school and flashes in college since he didn't get a whole lot of run at Kansas. But, you talk about NC State and defense, and you got Casey Morsell, which is obviously no stranger there. He's been our best defender, not just this season that just occurred, but seasons prior as well. And we talked about how important it was to add another piece like Jaden Taylor who prides himself on his defense and how he creates havoc on the defensive end and gets out in transition, and how he and Casey are going to be kind of a 1-2 punch on the defensive end. If MJ Rice can really upgrade his defensive game because of how guard heavy Keatts likes to go in a lot of his sets, we could be a problem. We could be a real problem to try and get points off of if we're creating turnovers, especially Keatts too. Keatts, he will talk about it till he's blue in the face, how he wants 40, 50 deflections per game out of his defense. And the turnover margin we saw last year was excellent.
Yeah.
To get another player as athletic, potentially, I'll say potentially until we do land him, to get another athlete at the caliber of MJ Rice would be excellent for that kind of game plan. It fits right in, I would think.
And let me say this as well. This isn't to say that he didn't show flashes defensively as well at Kansas. He did. He did show flashes defensively. But again, it's about bringing the package together, right? The shooting is also a little suspect. But again, MJ's a baller. He's a baller. I don't want anybody to hear this and say, oh, Kenton doesn't believe in him because he offered more criticism than he did on other. No. I've just seen MJ play more. So I've seen it as far as like his high school and all that, as far as his time at Oak Hill, they have a lot of televised games. I saw him more, so I can offer up more out of watching him. But again, if he can get that outside jump shot, if he can get that ball handling, decision making a little better, and most importantly, if he can be consistent on defense, and the Wolfpack can land him, oh man, we've got something special going on here.
He is for sure the guy that when it all clicks together, look out.
Yeah.
Look out.
And I'll tell you this. NC State fans, and this is why normally I talk to the loud minority, but I'm talking to all of us today, because there was a time where plenty of us were tripping about the fact that we didn't have anybody on the docket yet. We didn't have anybody on the docket yet. So I got to bring this up because Levi Watkins, the guy that told us to relax.
I love this from Levi.
The pack is growing. Talk your talk, brother. Talk your talk. Coach Watkins, talk your talk, because the pack is growing. And even beyond that, it is a moment where, again, they say that we struggle to connect to the younger crowd on the Locked On Network. So I'm going to say this for my younger Gen Z, or for my Gen Z and my younger millennials and even beyond them. We went from the SpongeBob house is burning down, who let him cook meme, to the Woody with his hand over Buzz Lightyear looking real focused, let him cook meme. That's where we are right now. That's where we are with Coach Keatts. I told everybody that if there's anything Coach Keatts can do at an elite level that you say he belongs at the Power 5, he belongs at NC State, he belongs at a big name, it's recruit. And so if I'm looking at the portal and I'm looking at all these ballers in the portal, 1 out of 5 players in the portal, I'm going to trust Keatts to get it done. I'm going to trust him every time.
I mean, there's been plenty of critiques about Keatts over his last 6 years, some of which are warranted, undeniably so.
Yeah.
One thing you cannot question, this is something we know about Kevin Keatts as a coach. He can recruit with the absolute best of them.
Absolutely.
And he's putting on a masterclass right now in this portal.
And the recruiting situation that he lost, which I said before, I'm not Nostradamus or anything like that. I've just had some moments. Right. I've also had some where I've been very wrong. We're not going to talk about that right now. In the previous situations where he lost out on big name players, it was in an unprecedented situation. There was no overtime elite or going straight to the G League when Coach Keatts started this thing out. And also, if you look at what has happened with those players, Coach Keatts was right. They should have came to Raleigh for a little while. They should have done that.
You look directly at Josh Hall. You look directly at Jalen LeCue, and you have to feel like they would have made much bigger steps for themselves if they came to college and refined their game perhaps a little bit more. I know Josh Hall, I think he did end up making it to the league, but just played very limited minutes. And to be honest with you, I don't even know where he is now. He might be overseas by now, but Keatts can get it done on the road. He can get it done in the family room. He can get at least the elite talent to want to play here. It's just being able to get them on the court is the last piece that has eluded him a bit. But
again, with those situations, that was all of those players were right when that rule first came in. Exactly. It's like, hey, you can skip college for the NBA, and we saw a lot of players do that. Now that things have stabilized with that, and we have seen players say, hey, I want overtime elite. That's what I want from the jump. We have not seen as many. I don't think we've seen a single player in the last 3 to 4 years that committed to, or not 3 to 4, but in the last 2-3 years that committed to Keatts and then went on to play and not step foot on campus or whatever the case may be, with the exception of Robert Dillingham. I would say
Rob Dillingham. He ended up, I think he switched his commitment to Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he switched his commitment to Kentucky, and that's it. That's it. Everybody else that we've seen that's a big time name and all that, they're going to be here. So, let Keatts cook. He's doing what he does. His wrist is tired, but he's not done yet. His wrist is tired, but we still got some motion in that pop.
And if you thought that he's been cooking and you thought maybe this is the end of his, progress, we have another name to discuss. We're going to get to it in just a second after a quick word from our sponsors. All right. So Kenton, I don't know how long you'll be able to float around on Twitter this afternoon, but shortly after I saw the crystal ball prediction come through for MJ Rice, all of a sudden, another big name, perhaps to me, it came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, it looks like, whoa, are we in the running for another former 5-star player? It sounds like we are, because we had him on campus. And here's the tweet that set us all off. A transfer from Alabama, a point guard, Jaden Bradley, was on campus today. This is Tuesday we're talking at NC State. Where did this come from? I mean, I understand with the departures of Jarkel and Terquavion, and, we don't really now have a true point guard, I guess you could say. You have Breon Pass, who played sparingly. You have LJ Thomas, who's played sparingly. The guards we've brought in are more combo shooting guard type things. Casey Morsell, not a point guard. So we're looking around. It's like, okay, well, are we going to develop who we have, or are we going to keep looking? Well, Keatts might have just answered that for us already, because he brought in a humongous prospect here to play point guard for us in Jaden Bradley. What do you know about Jaden Bradley, Ken?
Jaden Bradley is a floor general supreme. He is going to look to get other guys involved. He is a pass-first guy that is, he shines most in his ability to set up others. But with that being said, he still got some offensive game himself when he decides to call his own number. This is a guy that I'm looking at, and I'm saying to myself, hey, now, if we can get him, we'll have something that I don't think that we've had in quite some time in Raleigh. And this is even including Jarkel Joyner. Again, a true floor general to set things up and to stir the drink with his passing offensively. And this is no shade to Jarkel Joyner, because Jarkel Joyner is a phenomenal player. I could not have wanted more out of him for what he gave and all that good stuff. Not saying that. But again, what I'm saying is Jaden Bradley is a point guard that, again, we have not seen in quite some time. And I'll tell you this. He's a guy that, hey, if you try to take him, if you say, hey, this is a smaller guy, only 6'3", about a $170 soaking wet, we can go ahead and do what we need to do to move him around. Okay. All right. He's shown some chops on the defensive end too. So you will want him to be a little bit more aggressive offensively and probably calling his own number a little bit, especially for a guy that's a 5-star and all that. But again, a guy with good body control. He's not the most explosive athlete and leaper. You're not going to see a bunch of highlight slams out of the guy, but you will see some highlight alley-oop passes. You will see some passes where you're like, wait, where did that? How did he see that guy? I'd love to get him on. I'd love to nail him and get him as a part of NC State's basketball program.
I think the offense is something that could develop maybe even quickly for Jaden Bradley if he does end up making it here to NC State, because you got to think you have the threats of DJ Burns. You have a shooter in Casey Morsell. We're going to have to see how it works out with Jaden Taylor and our other pieces, maybe even an Ernest Ross, or like we have Middlebrooks, and Isaiah Miranda is going to be running around out there. We have a lot of different guys that are going to be able to showcase their offensive ability. And with the attention on these other guys, I feel like that's where Jaden can really step up here. And you got to keep in mind, too, he's only a freshman. He's only just played one season of collegiate basketball. And not to mention, it was for the team that was majority number one in the country for a lot of the season. He played up enough to get just under about 20 minutes a game. He averaged about 6.5 points, about 2.5 rebounds, and a little bit north of 3 assists per game. For a freshman on the number one team in the country, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely.
So you get him a year of experience and true to this too, the SEC has really developed into a stronger basketball conference in the last, 5 to 7 years than perhaps they have been historically. The SEC is a great league, and he was a freshman on the best team in that league and contributing. And so you get that year of experience under his belt to potentially move him into the driver's seat here in the ACC at NC State with all these new talented pieces. Oh boy, we could maybe even be dangerous, I dare to say. So I'll be very tuned in to hear everything I can hear about how this visit went, because I'm extremely tuned in to what Keatts has got going on now. I mean, we talked about it with Levi Watkins' tweet and telling everybody to calm down. And then a week later, we're like, oh my God, like he's working overtime. So,
but that's the nature of this thing, right? I mean, again, a lot of people are always so pressed to be right. Coach Keatts is cooking some oxtails. For those of you who don't know what oxtails are, they're a dish that are a delicacy in the Caribbean and African-American community. It's literally what it says. It's the tail of an oxen, any cow, bull, whatever, it's the tail. It takes a while to cook. In order to get the actual desired taste and flavor and texture that you want out of oxtail, it takes a while. Okay? I'm sorry to tell you, oxtails don't cook in hot dog time. That's not how it works out. Okay? You can drop a glizzy in boiling water, boom, 5 minutes later, it's ready. Sure. That's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not the case. That's just not the case here. This is, again, Coach Keatts goes out and gets the right players, not the players that are ready to commit first. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. So this has been a full episode. I can't believe we've already talked for basically 28 minutes here. It feels like we just got going with the amount of information we got going on. But yeah, we're going to call it here for the day. We got a lot more to discuss as the week goes on. We're going to talk a bit more about implications of these new transfers, maybe who could be going back out the door as a result. We're going to get into some of that. But for Kenton Gibbs and myself today, that will do it.
Hold on. Before we get out of here, Wes Moore, we looking at you in the portal too now. It's some of the top players in the nation are in that portal for the women's game. Now, I know you got burned by the portal a little bit this last time, Wes, but you better get on the phone with Kevin and ask him, hey, what's going on, brother?
They got to trade notes now or something.
We need some. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? You can help him out.
That portal recipe because Kevin's in the kitchen.
You can help him out with some of those defensive sets that are, tend to work out well for the women's team. He can help you out with a little bit of recruit. Get on the phone now. Or as the kids do it today, get on the phone. Hey, you got his number, baby. Dial him up. Go ahead, Grace.
So thank y'all for coming out and giving us a listen. Again, like I mentioned, we got a lot more on the way, not just this week, but in the weeks coming forward as we start to get a good look on how our basketball team might shake out coming into this fall. But for Kenton Gibbs and myself, thank you all for listening. And as always, go Pack.
You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.